We're still looking at the terms Mashiv Ruach Morida Geshem B'Chalkel Chaim B'Chesed, and I want to look with you at two stories that come back to back in the Talmud about two prayer leaders who are able to use these words to great effect in the real world, and to try to analyze a little bit about why are these phrases here in a blessing about resurrecting the dead. We already talked about food being connected to the feeling of bodily resurrection, and the wind and the rain as driving the natural process that develops the food. We're now going to remind ourselves about the equality of the food that's generated by rain. That is to say, when rain comes, it rains on everybody. I think Paul Sullivan sent us a cartoon at the end of last week, a Peanuts cartoon, in which that point is made, and we're going to look at these two stories from that angle, and sort of look at this bracha not only as a gratitude bracha, but also as one that may spur us to action in order to create the world that we are actually praying for God to create. That is to say, typically we think of prayer as I'm asking for something that doesn't exist, and it's up to God to make it happen. But we'll see from these stories that the dynamic of prayer here is I do something to create that world, and then when I pray, that world is already here. Okay, so we have two stories about a time of drought, and the rain is not there. So the main way of dealing with a drought in the Talmud is to either declare a set of fasts, and if that's not working, to lead a special Amidah that the Mishnah spells out that adds 6 extra brachot to our regular 18 bracha Amidah. So we pick up in this story of presumably Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. He declared a fast, but the rain didn't come. Like the fast was declared, but it's not effective. And then we have an Amidah. We don't know if this is after the series of fasts or just in the middle of the first fast. A certain person named Ilfa, or in some versions Rabbi Ilfi, comes before Rabbi Yehuda Nasi and leads the Amidah. That's what descended means, descended to lead the prayers of the Amidah. He recited Amar Mashiv Ruach, who makes the wind blow, and the wind blew. Morida Geshem, who makes the rain come, and the rain came. It's extremely effective prayer. So Rabbi Yehuda Nasi questions him and says, "Ma'uvdach, like, what do you do in the world? What are your deeds?" He says to him. So Ilfa or Rabbi Ilfi says back to Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. He said to him, "I live in an impoverished city in which there is no wine for kiddush or havdalah. I go to the effort of bringing wine for Kiddush and Havdalah, and I fulfill their duty, or in order to fulfill their obligation." Okay, so this is a town in which the expensive wine is not available, and so people cannot actually make Kiddush or Havdalah. They cannot do their religious obligation. And this person, the prayer leader, has gone to the trouble, Tarachna, he takes on the trouble of finding the wine for the people who are impoverished and can't bring it themselves, and is able to allow them to fulfill their religious obligation. Okay, so what you have is a character who is creating a world of greater equality, and then when he says Mashiv Ruach Morida Geshem, the equalizer on food, the rain, he has already modeled that, and when he says it in his prayer, the world that he started to create actually takes greater shape. That is to say, God is following Ilfa's lead as opposed to the opposite way. Let's see another story that comes right after that in the same section of the Talmud. Rav happened upon a certain place. He decreed a fast, but rain did not come. So Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, Rav is his student. Both of them are one of the greatest rabbis of their generation, but they're ineffective when it comes to bringing the rain, and the fast that they declare is actually having no impact. So we get a similar scene. The prayer leader descended before him. Here he's anonymous. He recited Hashiv HaRuach, and the wind blew. He recited Morida Geshem, and the rain came. So Rav says to him, "My Uvdach, what do you do in the world? What are your deeds?" He said to him, "I am a teacher of children, and I teach the Bible to the children of the poor, just as I teach it to the children of the rich. That is to say, I make no distinctions between the class level of my students. Presumably, like sort of offering financial aid. It doesn't matter what you need to pay. I will teach you from the Bible, no matter what your income status is. And anyone who cannot pay, I do not take anything from him. And I have a fish pond. And anyone who neglects his studies, anybody who's not able to pay attention to the studies that I'm working on, I bribe him with the fish in the fish pond and calm him, feed him in order to calm him and soothe him until he comes to read." Okay, so in other words, it's not just that he doesn't accept a fee, but also for the people who can't sit still in class because of hunger, this anonymous teacher, takes from the fish pond that's near his house and feeds them. He sort of goes the extra mile above letting everybody into the class, but really caring for everybody in the class to make sure they have the necessary food, like the basic human need, in order to do the studying that he's offering them. And so again, you see somebody here who has created a world of equality in which the end result is obviously a world where rain will come. In other words, he's already created the world of equality that the rain symbolizes and effects. So when he gets up to lead the Amidah, he's not asking for something. And notice, it's not in the asking part. There's a different bracha where you ask for rain. It's in the, this is the fact. The fact is God makes the wind blow and the rain come. And this teacher has made those facts on the ground true. And as a result of that, the world of the rain has already come. And so it's sort of like just a technical thing to say that in the Amidah and bring the actual rain, because he's already done the work of what rain does. He's already done that equalizing work in the world that he's created before prayer. So again, you could take this as don't leave everything up to God. It's in some ways our responsibility to create the world that we're praying for in the area that we can. We can't bring the rain for everybody, but we can work on the classroom that we are teaching in, or the town that we're living in terms of specific obligations. And that's the world that we're building. Devorah Steinmetz, teacher might have mentioned last time, has a wonderful article on this, why rain comes from above. And she says the following. She says, in these two stories, the individuals who pray are people who enact that divine vision, working hard to ensure that all of the people with whom they interact have equal access to the gifts that they have to offer. And this is my point. It's that equal access. Rain is equal access, and these people are also offering equal access. They have mirrored the justice of God's heavenly blessing. And so God is called to mirror the justice of those who work on the earth. That is to say, God sort of is the original role model, but right now, these prayer leaders are the role model that then causes God, in this instant, to end the drought and bring the rain because of the world that they've already created on the ground. Okay, so that's taking our blessing, Mashiv HaRuach U'Morida Gashem B'Chalkel Chayim B'Chesed. What chesed can we do in order to feed that will just create a virtuous cycle of then the rain coming down from above, describing a world that already exists as opposed to praying one that isn't here yet. I'm going to end with one last text on Mashiv HaRuach. Tomorrow we're going to move on to the next triad. But I'm going to end with one last midrash on this, which again connects this idea of Mashiv HaRuach, Morida Gashem, and feeding as also an opportunity for us to offer gratitude to God. Rabbi Yonah said, it's the way of the world that a person takes a pound of meat. Come and see how much trouble it is and how much effort he goes through until he cooks it, right? When you want to feed yourself, it's for the non-vegetarians, it's not so easy to go from a pound of meat to the food that I can eat on the table. But the Holy Blessed One, what happens when God wants to feed us? Causes the winds to blow, raises up the clouds, causes rain to fall. And here's our Mashiv Ruchot, Morid Geshamim, but that's our phrases. Grows vegetation, makes fruit plump, and dries them, and sets a table before each and every person. That is, say, you did nothing. Actually, a version of this midrash where you were asleep in bed when God did all of these things and caused the agriculture to produce the food and sets a table before you. But you don't even bring me the omer, ends this midrash, meaning God only wants a little bit back, like a tiny sheaf of the barley harvest. That's all God demands back. But look how much God is doing for us, okay? If the previous stories were people feeding other people, this is God feeds us, and what's our orientation of gratitude? So we may approach this blessing and say, well, I don't know if resurrection is for me, but you can also see it as simply offering gratitude for the food that God causes to grow, and we don't even have to do anything. I mean, we have to, of course, farm the. It's harder than it sounds in that midrash, but the fundamental processes of the wind blowing and the rain falling and the fruit growing on the trees is done before us. And what can we do to offer our gratitude, having lived in a world in which food is plentiful and abundant for us?